Hey, how you doing, everybody? What's going on? What do you say? What do you know? So throwback to The Sopranos, everybody. Yeah, so it actually wouldn't let me log on because the internet was busy. It was literally telling me high traffic on YouTube. So why not dive right into the competition and say, hello, how you doing? What are you up to? I'm looking for a friend of mine to join. You know who you are. And I want to thank you guys for following along. And listen, if you caught it earlier today, or if you hadn't and you want to earmark it for later, Penny did a great job of interviewing me. I'm really loving watching her come into her own and her own stuff. It's a fun day. It's a fun day. I have slowly been turning my space into a creative sanctuary, full of things such as poetry. My God. Yeah, we're going to freeze a shit ton tonight. I know it. I've been turning my space into a sanctuary of creativity. It's full of things like poetry. It's full of things like naps. It's full of things of comedic influence. It's full of music. It's full of things like piano pieces. Laying down a drum track for a meditation I'm going to be doing. I tried to microphone the gong a little bit. I think I need to take a class on that. So the beautiful part about it is you have so much knowledge and you can start to apply it, and then you can tinker around and try and get it right. Or you can bring in people that really know what the heck they're talking about and do that as well. And having Penny do the information, it's funny. She kind of surprised me by saying, "Hey, we're going to do your solar return today." And I'm like, because I like to share, but I like to control the narrative, and she knows that, and she's a son of a gun, and that's what makes her so good at it. We really had that Roy Firestone moment where she was like, so Brandon, tell me, whatever is it that you may think of the future for you? Whatever should the future hold for you? What are the things that inspire Brandon? We want to know. Here's a poem, honey. Pulled it out of my back pocket, and she said to me afterwards, she's like, yeah, you did that, didn't you? And I go, yeah, I went there. By the way, surround yourself with great people so your one-upsmanship makes you better. It wasn't an interface thing in either way. She's like, haha, I got him. And then I'm like, how about if I just read you some poetry? Somewhere in the checkbox in our brain, we checked all the marks. You see what I'm saying, Bimble? Anyways, it was a beautiful time. And we really kind of have a, yeah, there we go. Moments of the Gong Show. Black Bell's in the house. We're going to be, we're gonna have a little conversation here in a minute. We're going to talk about, I do want you to stay tuned, because if you didn't follow along, you voted for what I'm going to do in this. And I hope you guys like this aspect of it. There's going to be certain things that I want to bring out in this energy report. And I want to be able to do this. And I want a certain amount of planning, but a certain amount of like organic momentary pieces of like, oh, I pulled that one out of my ass, because that's where I work best. But I also know I need some sort of, I can't be total free form. So this makes me a little bit disciplined in how I approach it. Yeah, she handled me perfectly. Jim, don't think I didn't see your other comment there. Herding cats, really? Really, Jim? You're not wrong. I'm just saying you're not wrong. We're warming up here tonight. Yeah, I'm a water buffalo. But it's interesting. It's interesting too that as we kind of grow and progress, and we're going to be announcing things here in the next couple of weeks of this other platform. And I'm going to invite you along. I know you're going to come along. It's going to be the type of thing that we're all going to be able to we're all going to be able to grow. And it's a community in the internet world. It's a community within this. It's going to be a community for you. We're also building blocks behind the scenes of really good quality people that are leaders in their conversation. right? We want good conversationalists, and we want leaders in those spots. And we're filling that with people that really have their act together. And I've been overwhelmed and over inundated. And I've also been shutting the world out at the same time to do my creative work, because I have several books coming out. I'm coming to the end of one of them, which, that's going to be ready for release. I hope March 1st we're going to hit send. I have the poetry, which is a daily build. I have a feeling I'm going to be writing 2 books at once with that. And then, of course, the Merkaba Chronicles, which is going to be a really good step for me, because this is my ability to kind of cross genre, so that then, the book world and the fiction world begins to see me as well. And then we can kind of mold the two of them together. And I'm a big fan of Brad Metzger, those of you that know him. And he, he's written a few books. He wrote a book of Barbara Bush. He's written books about historical context. He was part of I think he was on like the Learning Channel or History Channel with a group of ragtag like truth seekers that wanted to get to the bottom of, is this Illuminati? What happened to the Golden Fort Knox? He's got some really cool, compelling shows. Well, anyways, that's very inspirational with where I want to go with this. I want to love the woo-woo. I want to encourage the woo-woo, but we have to be very practical right now, right? We have had this calling here for the practical, because when you're too woo-woo, I'm gonna speak in truth here, and then I'm gonna bring on a guest. You guys are gonna love me or hate me. Either way, thanks for watching. But when you're too open to the woo-woo, you are actually very susceptible to the grift. You're very susceptible, because your gut reaction and gut whatever, to say, oh my God, I want to, why is there going to be too much of an aspect that we're getting taken for a ride on the other side of it? And I've watched some light workers do it. I actually got, I started a class a couple of last week actually, and it's a year-long immersive. Those of you that are in it, I know you guys know that you're still trying to figure out the homework, aren't you? But there was a sincere moment for me that I was watching these light workers grift the shit out of people. Like, we're in charge now and we need to take over and there needs to be a whatever. No, it is not due tomorrow. Jeez, you guys. It is not due on Sunday either, but it's due on Sunday. It's progress. Sunday is progress day. You're about to get a video. It's all good. Hold on, let me unfreeze. You are about to get a video. It's all good. I'm here to help. Stepping stones. Here we go. So, I purposely made it a price that was ridiculously low for what it is. Ridiculously. And I got a nasty gram from somebody who's been grifting off of people's pain for a long time. And I know this person, and he's all about like creating, and then he's like, well, that's not sustainable. Like, he just basically, he was having a bad day. His numbers weren't good. So he decided to take it out on me. And when I responded, I first said, thanks for watching. Number 2, I am really disappointed that you don't see what I'm doing, because you're not me. So you're never going to understand it. Also, good luck with that. And I really kind of cut the person off, and I'd helped him, and he helped me a little bit too. I mean, I don't want to say it wasn't a symbiotic relationship, but he went ahead and revealed himself, and I'm okay with that. I don't, he got real personal, and every other word was money or value or, devaluing other people or whatever. The way that you can devalue what's going on in Washington right now is not giving it energy, because that's kind of how we got up there in the first place. So there's a, oh my God, that's not what I want. It's not what I want at all. That is not what I wanted at all. So we are going to talk about a few things here. I want to tackle some of the ridiculous, like, commentary and policy bullshit that he's, that Trump is just, going through. And listen, make no mistake here. Make no mistake. What he's doing is flooding the zone. He called it bazooka stuff. You know, there are people in this world that do not get that what he's doing, and I do mean what he's doing. He's doing it, by the way. He's doing it. And it is nothing short of a mistake, but let him make it. Let him make it. The Gaza Strip thing was disturbing and very predictable, by the way. It was incredibly predictable because the part he's not counting on is he thinks that he can oversimplify it by brute force, which is a classic mistake that people do when they want to be the bully du jour. When it's like, I'll just get this done. Have you ever had that one person that you work with that, you know, gets hired, you know, the Bobs come in and they want to, you know, they want to show everybody their value. Oh, come on, internet. They want to show you your value. I cannot believe how ridiculous. I think we're going to see the internet become a little obsolete here for a little while, which is why you should go to tbrennerus.com and get my emails. I'm also going to be announcing another web seminar type of thing coming up here. I'm also going to be doing some online readings. I'm going to be doing, and by the way, you can book readings with me at any time, but I'm going to be doing a group, a circle, which I think is a very important thing for me to do from time to time. I sometimes forget that I can't get out there. I am going to be in Florida in a month, and of course, why can't I find this? So, okay, here we go. Michelle, I'm sending you the link right now because I can't, it's just not letting me invite you on here. That's what I've been doing, kiddos. Oh, the Bobs, indeed. And we're going to talk about that here in a second. But, you know, I want to be able to take information in a different direction, right? Zig when they zag. But when you look at the predictability of Trump, when you look at the predictability of everything that's going down, it was in Project 2025. And just because he was willfully ignorant to what was in that, he wasn't wrong when he says, I don't even know what's in there, because he's an idiot, guys. Like, there's no, you know, people are like, oh, you have deranged Trump syndrome. No, no, I don't. No, I don't. He's borderline mentally ill. He's borderline, he's a functional illiterate on his best day. He doesn't look, read, or whatever. Words just jump off the page, as he says. And, you know, for someone that sat in front of an entire congregation, am I frozen again? This stuff. Yeah, you're going to be getting an email tomorrow, by the way, guys, Janet. But I'll see you on Sunday. It's all good. Are you seeing how much I'm freezing, guys? I don't know if you saw my post on Blue Sky, which, by the way, I am Lilith 11 is where you're going to go for that. But I made a post that basically explained that Donald Trump was 45, which is a 9, and now he's 47, which is an 11. So he's literally the 9/11 president. It is insane. By the way, the internet is flooded right now. That one I did get a way to go here. And as soon as we're there, Michelle, I don't know if you got my message. Yeah, I'm always going deep. You guys know that. You guys know that I'm willing to tackle the big things, right? And I'm going to send a message here to my guest. I'm going to start having guests on. Sometimes they'll be super famous, and sometimes we'll make them super famous. There we go. And it's well, that's good. It's a good work week, right? There's no borderline in his mental illness. Yeah, I mean, I'm not an expert at that, but I think that you could make a really good case for, the ridiculousness that he is. Like he certainly doesn't have any respect for anything. When you have a child that has ADHD, what you first try and do is teach them how to respect the moment, how to respect the situations, because if you can do that, you can turn it into something of a teachable moment. They're not going to take the subtleties of don't behave this way. They're not going to take the cue of like the hairy eyeball. You're not going to get the, oh, hey, look at that. But when you start to kind of like work with a child with ADHD, and I got thrown into a little bit, one of the things that I realized what they really needed was safety. It wasn't behavior modification. It was through consistency of delivery and hearing what people needed to really and we start to do this like conspiracy theories together, and we get all of the the parts that people say, well, it's a vaccine, it's our food, it's our environment, it's our whatever. Like, okay, there's two levels here. One, if you want to get to the sources of things, even if that source isn't 100%, even if those solutions are not 100% deliverable, there's something to be said for what goes into our vaccines. There's something to be said for how our food is manufactured now. There's something to be said for all of these things, but we take them to extremes. We took the transgender thing to extremes. Part of it was because they weren't going to understand the subtleties of it, which is how we got to where we are. And if you watch a good parent, and I mean somebody that really knows, oh, geez, now, how am I doing now? It's funny. I'm beginning to think that maybe, and I think I'm going to kick around with another platform before the end of the week, and I might just pop on. I might use something other than what I'm on right now, which is StreamYard. StreamYard, I appreciate you, but we're through the process of elimination. We need to start to, find solutions for some of this free shit that's going on, right? It's so funny. It just said, do you want to rejoin the internet? Like, things have gotten really, like, oddly weird. But that safety and consistency is a thing. And when you look at someone like, Elon Musk, who doesn't own a home anymore and sleeps wherever his head lands, and, doesn't have that consistent thing, I will tell you that, like, in transition in life, one of the first things you need to do is figure out where to lay your head down. And you see somebody that goes through, a breakup or a change or a fire, or, something that questions their safety. The first thing that you try and do is establish that safety and establish a routine and make sure you're my voice never freezes. Well, that's kind of good to know. So I'll just keep talking. Right. So that consistency is something that Elon Musk has never had. And he has also become a very dangerous person because he's so comfortable with chaos. So he was the perfect agent for Donald Trump to do his bidding with this stuff. And the things that you're hearing out of the Treasury Department, if they don't scare you, you're not an American. I'm sorry. They basically granted access to basically a former Twitter ex-employee that he brought back because he was that good, and basically put him in charge of the manipulation of information in the Treasury Department information. He has access to your stuff and my stuff, and he's never been vetted. He didn't go through a security background. He certainly gained access before he got a security background, before he got cleared, and before they actually had a work plan for what this person was going to do. That's another thing. You can talk about the bureaucracy of the government all you want, but one of the positives of bureaucracy is check, check, double check. Right? In human resources, we used to say that shit all the time. Check, check, double check. And what that truly means is you're gonna, it's a certain amount of CYA, but it's so that then the rogues aren't in place. So then you have minimum stuff. And once you got good at it, check, double check was two people that work together and be like, that's cool on my end. You know how I work. Let's go ahead and do it. And then all of a sudden it becomes an expedient thing because you have two people that know what the hell they're doing. Check, double check. In other words, we're going to roll this up. We know what's going to get through. We've already written it. Here you go. And then you can get it down to like a day, 2 days, maybe even a week at the most, but you're able to get something through so they can improve it and get it out to the people, right? That's not what's going on right now. You're not even getting one check. You're not even doing a fucking sound check on a microphone when, we're going to go heavy metal there. And you've got a guy that's not even tuning the guitar walking out on stage going, I'd like to play you my next favorite song that I just wrote in my head. And then everybody's looking around going, check, double check. Like, what the fuck? What? And we have somebody that's not elected involved with a lot of things. And then he's bypassing Congress, everybody. Like, he's bypassing whatever the fuck he wants. And then turning around, he's going to turn around to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court's going to go, yeah, no, he's good. Who didn't get a good haircut? So this is no longer an atrocity of democracy. We don't live in a democracy anymore, guys. Not the United States, anyways. What we can say, though, is that we are gaining our sovereignty, our personal sovereignty back, right? And the way we are rolling with this, okay. Well, I mean, screw the entire process. I mean, listen, we've got a really good idea. We just have irrational people trying to run it. The United States government, the way that it was built, the way that it was there, we had some really good ideas, and they had loopholes. And Donald Trump has pointed out every single one of the loopholes, right? And they're talking about like living in a pure capitalism and democracies don't actually go together. I'm going to say it again. Go hand in hand. Just doesn't. The signs of a true democracy is the idea that the state and the government actually have a certain amount of control and leverage against things going out of control, which is anti-capitalism, which is what all of these bohunks with, sawed-off shotguns and knuckle-dragging, behaviors are like, ooh, I won't be free. And meanwhile, what we don't get, what that group doesn't get, I should say, is that some of those fail-safes, like, unemployment and Social Security and these things that are actually paid for in other ways, like their invested payment plan back, are actually there so that then the bottom doesn't fall out of a personal economy. Because when you have people's personal economies start to fall apart, then you have tailspins, then you have spirals, then you have things like, everybody withdrawing their money at once. So the fail safes are in there from socialism, so that then we don't, so the capitalists can kind of be like, hey, I'm more capitalistically, but it has a cost. Yes, I see you there. I think it's time to kind of have, Penny inspired me by saying, hey, I want to have guests on. And even though we're probably going to freeze frame, I want to bring on one of your good friends, one of your own. And are you ready for this?
Oh my God.
Look at you out into the world. Better known as Black Bell. That's how we're going to roll here. We've had an interesting conversation in the last 24, 48 hours, but more importantly, I think it's important. I want to ask you some things about your perspective and where you're at, the job search stuff. And then also really kind of like how, what intrigues you about all of these conversations and everyone, this is Black Bell. Want to say hello, Black Bell? How are you?
I'm doing okay. Can you hear me all right?
We can hear you all right, and we know you're a rock star.
Yeah.
Listen,
Mike over here.
Oh, look at you go. You're like all kind of recording studio.
It's my
So,
husband's.
listen, I'm going to say his name. So Kyle and I are in a love affair and we haven't met yet. We've been exchanging pictures of music equipment.
Yeah, to say the least. Yeah.
Like, look at all my guitars, and I'm like, look at my painted wall. It's Eddie Van Halen-ish. All right.
Yeah.
So listen, whereabouts are you in the country? Again, not your address, but whereabouts are you?
No, I'm in the Los Angeles area. I'm kind of sandwiched between LA County and Orange County.
Yeah.
So if you're familiar with the Long Beach area, that's kind of where I'm at.
Yeah, and listen, how are the fires now? I know that they're still like, they had a flare up like 2 days ago again, right?
They did. Actually, as a matter of fact, when at the height of all of the fires, there was actually 10 fires going on, and only about 3 or 4 of them were being reported. So, but right now, everything's okay. We've got some rain today. We had some rain a couple of days ago. Yeah.
And you know what's interesting about that too, I didn't realize you said there were 10 fires.
Mm-hmm.
And what I've noticed, there's always kind of the, hey, let's rally behind everybody feel. And it's like, let's do, anytime you can get Gwen Stefani on stage, I'm okay with that. Sorry, am I sharing too much? But if there's a unity cry for things like that. And we kind of do the same template. And we all know that it's a feel good moment. It's a rally point. But I was really surprised when I did a deep dive, how many people were resenting like where the fires were, and people were applying like socioeconomic stuff, like the Palisades were getting more attention than say,
yes.
Whatever. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, there was a little. Pacific Palisades being on the higher end, the more upper crust, celebrities, those type of thing, rich people. The Altadena fires were mostly in like the San Bernardino Mountain foothill area next to Pasadena. So it's kind of a 50-50 neighborhood or city, if you will. It's some parts very upper crust, old money. And then you have other parts of it that is just your average middle income or lower to middle income neighborhoods. So there was a little bit of that at one point at the very beginning. Pacific Palisades was the first one to go off. Then Altadena was the second one. So Pacific Palisades was getting more attention as far as firefighting is concerned. But because the winds were so strong here, all of other Southern California, basically, they weren't able to use helicopters or any other plane or
that equipment depletion thing was a thing. And I know that there was, argument about, about the funding to, the fire department, that there was the funding to equipment retention and that sort of thing. But there was a real fire, or I should say a real water problem with getting water to the end of the lines. I mean, that was a really, really big thing. Do you think that the state or the county or the people that are in charge, do you think they really are culpable here? Or was it just such a massive thing that, of course, you're going to have stuff go sideways?
Yeah, all of that.
What's your thoughts on that?
Yes. I mean, we have fires here all the time. Okay, that's a given. But this is first time in a long time, if my memory serves me, we did have some really bad fires coming off the foothills that went into actual neighborhoods and cities. I think that was back early 2000s, maybe late 90s. But I'd have to say, at least this time around, it was a perfect storm.
Yeah.
And I don't think anybody was capable of knowing exactly what was going to happen. But I will say this, if the winds weren't as heavy, like strong, heavy hurricane almost winds, we would have been able to get some helicopter support, air support up and running. And it probably would have helped knock out those fires a lot faster. It wouldn't have completely put everything out, but it would have helped protect homes.
Containment. Containment was really, the key part of that. And I think when you're outside of California, you said a couple of things that I think raised eyebrows across the listening platform here. One of them is that you had fires all the time. I think most people don't realize how much the California wildfire issue has been over the years. And I my eyes were open when, I did a retreat in Shasta and I'm driving through and I'm like, guys, we're going to go through the mountains. We're just going to be in wooded, whatever. And it was charcoal, man. It was burnt out. I'm like, this sucks. And then when I mentioned it to a local, they're like, oh yeah, they just contain it, man. They just get ahead of it. They chop down, 25 feet. So that then that's a good widespread and they just let it burn out.
Yeah.
I'm like, dude, that sucks. Like that's awful. And then it's also about how, they're not getting ahead of they're not allocating their resources correctly either. Now it's one thing when you're, up in the Sierra Nevadas and you're, and you're like, there's nothing there, let alone a pipeline of water. But these are neighborhoods, and that it's kind of interesting. Let's shift gears a little bit, though. Let's talk a little bit about you and what you're comfortable with talking about.
Yeah.
Talking about your creative side, because that's something that, like, in our conversation, I'm just like, oh my gosh, this is pretty fantastic. I know where the connection tends to be for me with people, and either they meet with me on the spiritual side, on the creative side, in the life path change side, and we're hitting it off on all three of the parts. But talk to us about your creative side. What's going on?
Well, I'm an artist. I have a few pieces that I have sold. Very few, but I did it. And
gotta go and nail it.
Yeah. And wait, hold on.
What do you got? Oh, see you later. We've lost our guest, everybody. This is sheer chaos. It is. Ooh.
This is a piece that I did for. I called her my little sister. She was basically like my little sister. Unfortunately, she passed away, and she had.
Talk to me about that piece. Talk to me about the nature of creating it. Like, so tell me the backstory of your sister. Why do you call it the little sister?
Because she's a really good friend of the family's. Actually, she was the little sister of my younger brother's best friend. Can you follow that?
Keep going. And it's part of the reason why I just say keep going, because it's like, because my brain doesn't get it, doesn't mean that your brain didn't say it. So this is somebody connected to your family that you're like, that you were close to. Okay, that's cool.
Yeah. She had a heart condition. And
what's 7 to her? What's 7?
I don't know what 7 is, but my birthday is 7. So
what's July? What was her name? Let's honor her with her name.
Janice. And
who's Althea to her? Who's Althea in all this?
I don't know who Althea would be.
Got it. Okay, keep going.
But she had a heart condition. She I've known her since she was a teenager, very close to the family, and she lived with me off and on a few times.
So you're a foster parent too?
She's not gypsy, She came and went as she pleased. But I've always told her this house will always be her home, no matter what, no matter when. I know she's here because stuff happens sometimes, and I've even told her, it's like, look, you can stay as long as you want. You don't have to go home. You don't have to do anything. Stay, be here what you want. Just don't scare Kyle.
Yeah,
that's it.
So what inspired the painting?
I think I just needed to do that myself.
You only flashed that for a second, and I'm telling you, people are like, how can I get it? But keep going. What are we talking about here? How'd you get there?
I believe I wanted to do something. I was devastated when she went. She literally was like my little sister. Like Kyla and myself were like surrogate parents. She was extremely talented, very gifted. She was a chef. Worked for Wolfgang Puck. I mean, she was accomplished. Wow. And anyway, long story short, she had tattoos.
Was she on the Food Network?
Yep, she was.
She's talking about showing her. She's going there and she's talking about, she's like, I had a chance to show everybody. I don't know if she was up against
she was robbed.
Did she beat Bobby Flay? Like, I don't know what this is.
She was on Guy's grocery
Guy Fieri's she was on like the shopping one.
The one that they have like 4 or 5 chefs. and she didn't make it past the first round, but I don't think the one that she was going up against, she should even made it past the first round. So I think she was robbed.
Yeah,
you're robbed.
There's some suspect things.
Yeah.
When they're just like, the fish is raw, but I love the presentation. You're like, they just serve you raw fish and you let them through, you assholes. Like, I don't care who you are. Shine up your glasses, dipshit. The
There's
one that
sushi in a hat
reaction shouldn't get passed. Like, what the fuck? Like, yeah, totally. So the other thing I'm picking up on with this is did she also have what was the did she have like a dragon tattoo? Why is she talking about the tattoo of?
She had a few, so I wouldn't be surprised if she had something similar or related
she's
to a
Scorpio.
dragon.
That's where she's going with this. What's the Scorpio stuff?
Oh, that's my husband.
Okay, so that was the connection into this, but she's got like this. It's almost more like a dragon's egg.
She's a Gemini, if I'm not mistaken.
She's a Gemini. Okay, well, there's something. This will be one of those things that'll come back in a conversation.
Oh yeah,
she's just trying to give me validation that we're connected here. She's showing me stuff. Keep it. By the way, she loves that painting. She said, "Oh, she's saying that's a tattoo."
That's her tattoo. Yes, it was her tattoo. That's why I did it. Because
I do this work for a living, and sometimes I'm like, holy shit.
Yeah, it was her tattoo. And the reason why she chose magnolia and why that was significant to her is because where she grew up in Long Beach, they have magnolia trees down her street.
Yep.
And that was a connection to her and her being home.
And she is all about being strong like a magnolia.
Yeah.
She's doing this. And she says, I know where I am here. Like, she knows what happened. Does that make sense to you?
Yeah.
Okay. And she also, so she's been the bug in my ear about you, probably. Because I think when you painted that, what was the parts that like let you heal? What were the parts when you said, I have to do something? So that's the motivation, right?
Her friends had gotten together because I was known as the big sister per se. Her friends had gotten together. Her partner, who she also roommated with towards the end, had put up a what do you call it? I'm a loss for words right now.
It's okay. Take your time.
They put up like a charity type thing.
Yeah.
For heart patients. And because she had a heart condition. So the goal was to do this, and it was part of my healing process, to do this as a memory towards her and to present that when the time was right, when they got together and put the charity together or did any type of event that included her charity, that this painting or prints would be done so we can, sell it or whoever who wants to buy it, those monies would be donated.
So do you have it in a reprint yet?
No.
All right. So we've got some work to do, right? That's why, the More Than a media platform is going to have a lot of tools for people. And one of the tools is going to be our products, our product developments, our things that we want to be passionate about in the world. And, sometimes it's like you come up with this great idea and then you don't have a throughway, a causeway, a platform, if you will. And that's what some of this is going to be. And I think you have so much experiences like that. And we've shared a couple of other things in our conversation, but, experiences like that, along with your creativity. And by the way, you are fucking talented. You are talented. It's like you having that artwork in your back pocket, in your presentation of self, in that, and you speak so passionately about it. I think I'm going to spill the beans a little bit here. You and I talked about you having a podcast on this network, and I think it's a really important thing to understand how you tick and understand what your motivation is, because spirit's like blowing up over here for me. It's just like, come on, dude. Like, this is the reason why you do stuff.
And just so you know, I have been batting around the idea of having a podcast for years now. And I'm just trying to figure out, how do I do this? A lot of it is financial, as you know. But a lot of it was, okay, how do I get myself and separate the day-to-day grind, having a job and doing the other stuff that I want to do.
How do you do this without mortgaging your future?
How do you want to talk about mortgages? Don't say that word.
So sorry. You're going to be okay. You do know that, right? And I think that one of the things that you've got to kind of recognize too is you're going through this for a reason.
Yeah.
You're piecing it together, but look at how quickly you snapped your compass into your true north. Hey, show me a piece of your art. B, I got it right here. Hold on. Like, you knew exactly who you were in that moment. That's authenticity. That's being able to bring, those are the lessons we need to teach as we move into the age of Aquarius. These are the things that we need to kind of step into. That's why not only Spirit is like jumping up and down going, B, it's black belt, go get her. Like have a conversation about it, right? And then they're like, she's also married to your guitarist. Like, go talk to him. Like, it's one of those. It's like, oh, okay. But right. I think as we start to, find a way to do this, we're going to have some pretty specific goals, and we've got a meeting coming up. We're going to be pitching stuff out and how to bring back black belt to the world. And, that's a conversation about how we truly develop self and how we truly go to where it is that we need to. And I'm also saying it to other people here. I am going to be brutally honest with people when they say, hey, I've got an idea. But part of that brutal honesty is also making sure that you tweak it the way that I'm vibrating, or at least what I'm doing, so that then I protect myself, but also encourage you the right way. And your level of what you need out of this is exactly what everything is lined up for me energetically. And that's a huge thing. I also think when you care for somebody the way that you cared for her, it is a hallmark of energy that you recognize in other people. Because I can't tell you how many times people are like, oh, Brandon, you're a jerk, or oh, Brandon, you're this or that. And then I say to myself, well, how many people did you adopt? How many people have you helped? And meanwhile, you're like, oh yeah, this is her forever home because she didn't have anything else. I'm so proud of her because she did that. It's time for payback. It's time for the universe to say, oh, no. We got you here. There's a little bit of My Name is Earl. Remember that show? I brought up that show a couple of times, and some people are like, what the hell are you talking about? Meanwhile, it was like in a top 20 shows for like 5 years on NBC. Like, it had prime spot the whole 9 yards. And it's about this guy that wins the lottery and goes around and redoes situations so that they come out positive. There's a little bit of that here for me. But I think it's more about not necessarily of doing wrong, but having those moments where things were done wrong to me, and me saying, oh, no, I'm going to cut out the middle person, so that then that can be a bridge for others in their journey. Listen, let's kick this around for 30 seconds. What do you want to talk about on a podcast? Let's just, and by the way, nothing concrete. This is a working group here.
Oh, yeah, no.
And everybody else gets to see it. But what are some of the things that you think you'd want to talk about?
I want to speak about my own experiences, but and how that translates to how we're all pretty much experiencing the same thing almost simultaneously in a way. And then also, talk about that and how we all talk about health and how we have to keep our health up and good practices and stuff. Only now, I'd have to say within the last 15 years, maybe, if that most, are we focusing on mental health and how important that is. But nobody really talks about energetic health, spiritual health. That's what I want to talk about, because that's something that I'm very, very familiar with. And I can spot things, just I'm sure like you can spot things. Just letting people know it's important to have mental health. Absolutely. It's important to have good physical health, but it's just as equally important to have good energetic or spiritual health, and spiritual health beyond, the main religions, that
Yeah.
organized religion. I mean, there's more to it than just going to, church. And you could do that if that's where it gets you and you feel good and your energy is good. And I'm like, all right, I'm rocking on. That's great. However you get there, it's okay.
Yeah.
But acknowledging it, I want to talk about those types of things.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
I'm gonna say why that's brilliant, because I think when you're in it, like when you're in it, you lose perspective. And one of the things that people in their spiritual sovereignty is they're discovering like what their belief systems are. They change. If there's one intrinsic thing that people have seen over the last 10 years, it's that something has changed for them, in them, about them, right? And part of spiritual hygiene is also going through the part of saying, boy, I really have to discover, the Kabbalah. I really have to read the Gnostic Gospels. I really have to, and having those moments where you're, the 30-second convert. It's funny. I've got a poem that I wrote called The 30-Second Convert. And it's about how we jump from religion to discover who we truly are.
Mm-hmm. And there's nothing wrong with that.
That's my point exactly. There's nothing wrong with that. Yeah. And I think we need to have that. Just like you have the dark night of the soul where you swipe right. Am I right, kid? we won't get into those things now. But it's funny though. It's like you discover who you are by dancing around the room.
Yeah.
And we don't give ourselves credit. We think, oh, you're wishy-washy or whatever. No. We're becoming truth seekers. Mm-hmm. We're becoming the parts where we can either prove or disprove that it's for us. And I think that's what you're talking about. I mean, I think that's a ton of concept right there.
It's a lot to unpack.
What's that?
It is a lot to unpack. Yeah.
Well, but what about how do you think you'd incorporate your creative side? Like, what do you? How do you think you can lead people in your creativeness?
Well, like for my art, I mean, art is one facet. My husband has gotten me on a journey and at a journey of writing songs and writing music and, expressing myself in that way. And ever since I was a little girl, I was always told that I'm a good storyteller. I used to tell stories.
You got to be a good storyteller if you do this work well.
Yeah. So I used to tell stories to my mom and my younger brother or whomever, and I put them to sleep,
Right. Well, and listen, there's something to be said for that about, is Heart like your favorite band ever or what?
Oh, one of, yeah.
You got Ann Wilson all over you on this one. You probably you're kind of in that mezzo.
I'm all over the place. I mean, everything music inspires me, art inspires me. I've always had that connection with that, but I mean, I want to talk to people as far as like if they feel that my art resonates with them or what have you. I have different ideas, like we talked about it, touched base a little bit about it as far as like doing artwork. And I have ideas about putting an oracle deck together with my artwork, but not so much an oracle, but an affirmation deck.
I happen to own a publishing company. We've going. You didn't know that?
Wow.
Did you know that? Are you being sarcastic?
Of course.
Of course.
Of course.
Love everything about that. So, but I mean, really, it's about getting that voice out there too, and then building in things. And listen, if you're true to form, you catch the vibe, and the black belt vibe might be what you need right now because you're hearing that and you're going, yay, here we go. And, you ride that wave for a while and then you're blessed because you get to be somebody's teacher. They're blessed because they get to know your philosophy. Maybe you inspire them as a teacher themselves. Maybe you inspire them in that dark moment where they just need to kind of get through, or they find that missing piece to go there. I mentioned this when I met Doug Pinnick of King's X, and I've met him a few times and I've had actual casual conversations with him. But this time, I haven't seen him in 10 or 12 years and I had to go see him, drove down to Connecticut, sat through the concert. They still sound really, really good. And I forget that they're 66, 68, and 71. Mm-hmm. And I'm just like, fucking got it, man. Like that made me just like wail all the way home. And when I got up to the front, I shook his hand. I'm like, Doug, you helped form my worldview. Mm-hmm. And he just stopped and looked at me. He goes, damn. And I go, yeah, that's how influential you've been. And the reason why I'm saying that is like he's like a lifer teacher for me. I watched how he emoted his soul. I watched how he evolved from a scared Texas, mohawk wearing closeted gay man to an outward pride humanitarian leader. And it's just amazing. And his words and his lyrics and you give Ty, 3 strings on a guitar and he figures out a new way to play them.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's amazing. And I had a chance to tell him that he was influential to me. And who is influential to you? Like, if you had to say, like, these 1 or 2 people are like, that's my jam, that's my vibe, and forever. And it doesn't mean that you're always like I don't listen to King's X every day or even every month. But when I listen to him, I listen to him.
Mm-hmm.
Who would you say really kind of brings you to that piece of like, boy, this is something that brings out something in me?
Like I said, I'm really all over the place, but I'd have to say right now what comes to my mind is, as far as music goes, I'd have to say Stevie Nicks.
Yeah.
Because her writing, her words, really, it does resonate on a lot of levels for myself. That's just one person.
It's funny. In my album collection, I had to get Rumors. And I tried to find an original issue. It's super hard to find. But they did something with that recording technique that used, it was one of the first Dolby sounds, if you remember that whole trend, where it wasn't just hi-fi, it was Dolby sound, which meant that they could layer it, basically, is what it was. Mm-hmm. And I really listened to Dreams the other day, like really listened to it. And I was like, damn, that's good. Mm-hmm. Like, just as a wordsmith, she really kind of pulled that out. And listen, I know not the hour nor the place, but we all know she's on borrowed time. I mean, you listen to how she lived her life for 25 years and you're just like how is she upright?
Yeah, but she almost actually lost her house in the fires as well, but they saved it.
Yeah, she's like not all that far from you.
No, at least not this particular property. She's got several.
Listen, I don't know how you don't stalk some of these people. Like, I would have just wanted to be like, were you in Doogie Howser? Because I want to know you. Like, I'm that guy.
I actually do know a few celebrities, yes.
Of course you do, because you're and what's your favorite thing about working with a celebrity or knowing a celebrity? It's just treating them like a normal person, right?
Yeah, I mean, they really are. I'm not the type of I won't geek. Actually, I did kind of geek out on one person, but he was a musician.
Who was it? You got to spell it.
Daryl. Oh God, it was his last. See, you've got me on the spot here. Daryl from bass player Rolling Stones. My buddy is a musician. He's a Grammy winner. Albert Salas, amazing, talented man.
Oh, he played with. Oh, I know he was a backing guy for, and I'm going to say Rod Stewart, but I don't think it was Rod Stewart.
It's Santana.
It was Santana. Thank you.
Yeah, that's what he won the Grammy for. He wanted that Grammy for the work that he did with Mana with Santana.
Yeah,
so, amazing, talented man.
And it's funny when when people start talking about like who's creative and who's connective and whatever, they mean normal. Like, this is something I've learned in my own creative kind of thing, and having this gift and going out and walking into a room full of 30 people. Like, I'm so fluid right now with my mediumship that it's allowed me grace to go into the creative again. But like when I grab dinner with friends or we're hanging out or whatever, like I just need normal. I don't need to be like, hey, B, where's my car keys? Like, I just need you to sit there and be like, oh, you're eating another chicken wing, huh? Like, I need you to bust my balls a little bit, right?
They're just normal. I mean, no, there are some that were kind of like a little bit too much. It's like, okay, you really need to like relax.
Who would be like that?
Yeah, there was this one, and I'll have to tell you offline later. But
okay,
there's two.
I don't want to put you or them in a bad spot.
There's this one particular celebrity that I was looking so forward to meeting, and that just turned into a wah wah. And then I'll have to tell you a story of when I crashed a party.
Sometimes those are the best, right?
It was fun. I had a good time.
My experiences and stuff like that was always, I was always surrounded or connected to or in, bands that were opening for other bands that were kind of like getting bigger. Like they weren't there yet, but they were whatever. And, I had an opportunity to, sound check with them. And then all of a sudden they call you back and they're like, hey, be in our band. And you're like, dude, I'm 18. I don't like, I have a Subaru GL with 140,000 miles on it. And I'm not in a spot where I can just join you in Baltimore, but I've had these brushes and connections that I look back and I'm like, it totally would have changed my life. And then I look at them and I'm like, oh, but I was their normal reality for that exchange. I was that person that whether they remember me or not, doesn't matter. But I was that guy that sat in when their drummer was out back inebriating themselves 3 hours before a show. And, I almost got the gig because I was upright and I knew the parts and I happened to have done the work on them. And on the other side of it, when you have those moments where you're like, oh my gosh, I build that up. And then you meet them and then you're like, well, you're an asshole or you're a jackass. And it's funny, and I am in no way, shape or form famous, but I do have a certain amount of clout when it comes to people look up to me because of what I do, because I provided things for them or they're looking for that from me. And one of the things that I've recognized, and it was a really cool feeling. I was in the Orlando airport and somebody came up to me and she says, hey, I know who you are. And I'm immediately like, once upon a time, I used to be like, oh yeah. Sarah,
do I owe you money?
Yeah. Do I owe you money? That's why I always say that. And, it usually would have been a drink or something or another. But she says, I know who you are. And I go, oh, how do you know who I am? And she pulls out of her bag my book. And I went, damn, that was awesome. And I said, so how do you know me? She goes, well, I saw you a few years before that. When I saw that you wrote the book, I got the book. I just happened to grab it. By chance, I grabbed it and threw it in my bag. And then here you are in the Orlando airport eating your knish or whatever the hell I got. And it was just that really cool moment. And she goes, you're just like you are on YouTube. You're just like you are on those shows. It's still like you've had all of these things happen to you and you're still kind of whatever. I think I'm more myself now because I realize I don't need a facade. When a celebrity doesn't go through that moment of like, I got to remember what got me here, is that part. But anyways.
It's the authenticity that we all have to own.
I love everything about that. Well, listen, Black Belt, I want you to be part of things here. I want you to be part of your growth. I think I want to see how far you can bust out of your shell. You've planted the seeds. Now it's time to water them. And I think it's going to be exciting to watch you grow with this and have that opportunity. And I know everybody was a big fan of your comments and,
Oh, you got frozen.
Like, listen, dude, I'm unemployed. I don't know if I can swing that. And true statement, right? I love everything about that. All right, listen, I've got to go do the energy report on the winner. By the way, who do you think the person was that everybody said they wanted the astrology report on? Who do you think?
Oh, I don't know.
I had Stephen Miller. I had Christy Nome. I had JD Vance, and I had
JD Vance.
You think JD Vance?
Yeah.
Yeah, you could see the results, couldn't you?
No, I just the minute you said his name.
Yeah, because I think he's kind of been this interesting kind of shadow guy. What's your take? Quick take on like, why do you think JD Vance is an interesting character astrologically and what's going on right now?
I think, like you just said, he is a shadow guy. I think he is waiting.
Wow. You just totally took my shtick.
He's waiting.
All right, guys, I'm out of here. You guys can go rock it. Kitty, here's Black Belt with JD Vance. All right, Mike Belt, I will talk to you soon. Thanks so much for being a part of it, and I'll send you a link for the meeting, okay?
Okay.
All right, hard taps to you. Welcome aboard.
Mike.
Awesome. All right, guys. Yeah, without further ado, wackadoo. And by the way, I kind of like, I hope you guys like where I'm going with stuff. It's not a template. By the way, when I tend to do things, there are things that nobody else knew, right? So, Black Belt, thanks so much. So good. So awesome. So awesome. Yeah, look at this dipshit. You guys chose him. You guys went ahead and said it, yeah. So I was giving you a choice, and you chose J.D. Vance. And by the way, I hope you like this new format, Power to the People. You can go back and audit my work because we're transparent around here, and you chose J.D. Vance. Why'd you choose J.D. Vance? Well, the shadow work, Black Belt said it best. Why not take a look at the guy that used to call Donald Trump a Nazi? End quote. Not allegedly, not supposedly. He did it on record, out loud, in front of people. This man called Donald Trump a Nazi. Well, what happened between calling him perhaps one of the worst things that you can call somebody in a political arena to becoming your running mate? Money, 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 money. Everything you needed to know about the Trump administration came with this move. And at first, there was a little bit of the, let's not forget, there was the little bit of the, how do you talk about white Christian nationalism as a negative, and then present yourself in the proponent of someone that took a swing at you? Well, he embodies a lot of that, and there was a lot of credence given to that. But the underbelly of that, or the underbelly, depending upon what your preference is understanding how connected he was with the tech bros. He has funding out the ears from Silicon Valley. He is about saving different economic resources in that area. He single-handedly presented one bill in Congress, and it was about saving technology funding. The dude is bought and sold. He's also a simpleton. If you pay attention to his book, and by the way, I couldn't make it through the movie, and I certainly couldn't make it through the book, but the excerpts that I've read, I understand, and don't throw shit at me for only reading the excerpts. It's not very good. I reserve the right to only reserve the white. Well, when it comes to J.D. Vance, he reserves the white. I reserve the right to only consume things that will feed my soul, and that did not feed my soul. As a matter of fact, it insulted my soul, right? And I think that when you bring it to full stop, I think that there are parts about J.D. Vance that are just in conflict, and I want to pick them apart here for a second. The theme that you're going to have is that he is, just like he did in his childhood, he hid. He hid behind name changes. He hid behind addresses. He hid behind his identity in other ways. Now, I'm not here to spread rumors about his affair with couches. I could care less. Whatever floats your boat, buddy. But you might want to learn how to get those stains out. Am I right, Bill Clinton? Anyways, J.D. Vance also has this survival mechanism that will serve you very well in chaos. That's the part I want you to pay attention to. I want you to pay attention to the money in his tech. And by the way, there is a certain level of authenticity that you can achieve while in fight or flight mode. And that fight or flight mode is going to be the misdirection that you present. Yes, I've watched the Rogan show and how he spoke to the challenges and problems. And he would always seemingly redirect to the idea of a counterbalance point that didn't actually solve a thing. He's not a problem solver. He's a redirector, which is why he's so popular in the circles that he's in, because he's able to grab the attention to another direction, which, by the way, is 100% the tone and the modality now. And there is a level that he can come off and be like, you know what, I can kind of like the guy a little bit. There are some likable features, but then when you see that they're more of the bug than the feature tends to go back to the protection of people that paid him, which also is a hallmark of this administration. But then you also have the ideals of being able to roll up your sleeves to get something done without the appearance of getting something done, without the appearance of insulting or whatever. So he's placating people, By the way, that's what you do with an abusive parent. You have a performance thing, right? And by the way, I'm not saying that you can't come from the background that JD Vance came from and be successful. I'm not saying that at all. I'm an adoptive foster parent, and I'll be damned if I will ever be in a position where, you know, that person that I've taken care of is not getting a fair shake in things, right? You know, the reason why you do that is to fulfill some part of yourself that you need to heal, as well as be able to give them a chance and an opportunity for normalization. JD Vance's normalization was still in that part of it. He changed his name because he kept saying, I want to be on this team. I want to be on this team. I want to be on this team. By the way, Donald Trump, Daddy Trump, changed political affiliations 9 times. He was an independent for a little while. And in 1994, he said, well, if I was going to run, I would probably run as a Republican because they'll fall for anything on Fox News. He literally called his shot time and time again. He called the Fox Nation stupid people and then hijacked them. We're done with trying to explain this. JD Vance is another sheeple to him. So let's take a look at the chart. Let's take a look at how the chart's going to run. Oh my gosh, what are we doing here? There we go. There we go. I think it's funny that I've lost viewers as this has gone on. Because people, you know, they went to Sticky Russ. They went to Sticky Brandon. So, all right, here we go. So here's the background for him. This is his natal chart. And by the way, it is insanely. I actually have a video out there where I compared JD Vance to Donald Trump. It's scary how close their charts are. Scary. And it has everything to do with their rising. You know, he is a 27-degree Leo, and which, by the way, has its own challenges. I'm going to point out why here in a second. But he also has a, you know, where Trump is 25 and a half, right? Yeah, he's a double Leo. He's a Leo sun, Leo rising, you know, which also kind of brings a lot of kind of perception of vanity. But here's the thing, as we have a lot of this Gemini energy coming in, you want to recognize that this is 10th house stuff for him because of his placements, right? And he also kind of has this value system of pushing tin for survival. Because he has so many things in the illusionary placement of the 12th house, between you know, the sun, Vesta, and Venus. And I put a lot of stock in Vesta because I think it's about life lessons. The fact that Vesta is conjunct to the sun, he might have a triumph story in the end, but it's going to be a train wreck in between. Because this illusionary practice, you know, when you have Leo in the Pisces house, and I can speak some truth to this because I've been there, you know, because I have that combination in my chart. You have to struggle with the idea of, are you doing it for me or are you doing it for them? Are you that really kind of in-depth, look at her mouth wide open, looks like I'm waiting for a stack of Oreos. Anyways, so the aspect here that I think we have to kind of pay attention to is that you have Venus on his ascendant, right? There's a certain level of vanity of that with him. You'll also see that Mercury is in Virgo, and it is an opposition to his Lilith. So, and Lilith sits in his 7th house. His descendant is Pisces. So he allows others to create his vision sometimes with these placements, particularly for Lilith. And the part that he is having trouble with in his life path, just sight unseen, forget about who he is in the public consciousness. JD Vance in this chart with his Lilith placement there is very contingent on how he personally heals in the public eye. He will either be publicly shamed or he will be publicly healed. because his Lilith is square to Chiron in the North Node that sits in the 10th house. That brings out a level of public knowledge that might not be comfortable for him. This leads to affairs. This leads to divorces. This leads to, saying somebody's, an evil world empire criminal 1 minute and then being on his team the next. There is real truism to what his path has been so far with that. This would also give you a high indicator that he's not going to be able to heal without going through it with his wife, without going through it with his family, because his 4th house having Mars in it in Scorpio means that he's kind of an underhanded chef. He's kind of in the shadows of things. It's a very comfortable thing. And when a Leo rising, you would think, oh my God, he's going to be like, I'm here, right? On one side of it, that just screams that, except when you have something like Mars in Scorpio, when you have Saturn in Scorpio, this is him kind of being the undercover lover a little bit. This is him kind of being the quiet, so long as I get what I need out of it, Donald, so long as I can fuck a couch every once in a while, I'm good. Oh my God, was that my outside voice? Did that go out? Did I say that out loud? Oh my God. But you understand where it's kind of like, so long as he gets what he needs, so long as his needs are met, right? And by the way, the communication, level of him being a Libra moon conjunct to Pluto, and it's a wide conjunct, so I'm gonna taper that a little bit, and then also Saturn also being in the 3rd house in Scorpio, even though it's he's got a stellium going on here. It's a wide stellium, so nothing is really kind of overly advanced except for the idea of he's going to be shifty. He's going to be your best friend one day. He's totally the guy that stands up and clinks his glass and say, today I'm married, my best friend. And you don't need to know what any of that means, but it means manipulation. And I'm going to pony up to it and get what I need out of it and then kind of go from there. Now, I don't want to just shit shame this guy, but in his chart, these are tendencies that he's going to have with those types of placement, right? Having Uranus conjunct to the South Node is going to be his way of garnering, everything about his family is going to be show. Everything about his money dynamic, stability, what have you, is going to be like, okay, this doesn't make sense to you. I'm going to marry somebody of a different race. There it is, right? It's that unconventional way of looking at it. But he's going to use the optics. He's absolutely going to use the optics because the North Node sitting in the 10th house in Chiron, he's going to have the illusion. He likes to create the illusion. Now, when he gets down to the brass tacks, let's talk about JD as a human and let's care about him for 30 seconds. If he's going to become the person he's meant to be, he's going to face this dark night of the soul and realize that he can't hurt those people near to him. That also includes kissing up to people that will never give him what he needs. They will give it to him in a moment. I mean, if I was JD's friend and he came to me and he said, listen, I know what the world thinks of Donald Trump. I called him a Nazi. I called him out. I had bravery. Don't forget that he had some bravery here. Don't forget. It was short-lived and very slippery, but he did say it, which took a lot of balls, right? If he came to me and said, listen, Donald Trump wants me to be his vice president, what do you think? I'd say, well, he tried to kill his last one. Oh, well, he's not like that anymore, right? And then all of a sudden, if that doesn't sink in, it means that his motivation is about the fame and fortune and the manipulation of becoming somebody so that he can survive another day. Trump, being the son of an abuser, quite frankly. I mean, I want you guys to look at this really strongly. When you look at the track record, and listen, I chose this picture on purpose. I'm not trying to create a sympathetic character here, but I'm trying to make him human because he's part of something that's very inhuman right now, but he's in survival mode. This was a kid that watched his mother get beaten and thought to himself, how do I not get beaten myself? Right? So he's going to be vulnerable. He's going to be incredibly vulnerable. And I'm seeing some of you comment on Peter Thiel. That is exactly why Peter Thiel targeted him. A senator from Ohio. He as a lawyer, he worked for one of these tech companies and shook hands and did rubbed elbows in trying to be successful and whatever. He made it known, like, hey, I will serve you. I will make sure that your voice is heard. And that's what a good, you're one of the people, so here it is. The problem is that he's been making deals with subhumans for a long time because it's been survival mode. By the way, Donald Trump doesn't drink because he watched his brother get shit-shamed by his father, and that's why it's there. People are like, oh, look at this. Donald Trump doesn't have a drink. I don't trust people that never self-medicate ever. I just don't trust it. And by the way, overindulgence is a problem too. But, if you don't know how to unwind, for me, after this, I'm gonna do one of two things. I'm either going to sit behind my kit and fucking wail, or I'm going to throw on an album, and I think I might listen to Rumors. I'm going to plug it into my hi-fi, and I'm going to let Dolby Sound rock it out, and I'm just going to feel the music. Like, that's my drug. That's how I get there. JD Vance gets there because he survives another day. Donald Trump gets there because he is able to establish his power, and he thinks he's smarter than everybody else because his bubble, his world, was survival mode to the T. So you're dealing with somebody that only knows survival mode in a cabinet that's built around survival mode. Now, Pete Hegseth came in a distant third. And nobody gives a shit about Kristi Noem, which, okay, I can kind of, go from there. 45 is 9, 47 is 11. He's the 9/11 president. We got to make that a thing. He medicates with Adderall and, whatever else it is. But so long as he doesn't, you have to understand, he doesn't make the translation. Donald Trump does not make the translation that self-medicating with these drugs, whether it be Adderall or cocaine or whatever the case may be, his son is a full-blown coke addict. He has been photographed more times since he has been in the public limelight with cocaine lines underneath his nose than anybody else. And nobody actually says that aside from oh, well, it's what he does. It's a temporary high. It's what he chases, and by the way, if you self-inebriate that much, you don't have emotion. You look to the drugs or the alcohol or whatever to provide that emotion for you. Those that use it in a healthy sort of way, recognize that it allows you to check it off, right? It allows you to say like I need to dispatch here. I need to pull back. I need to do something else, right? That's cool. That is the tour de force of you, right? That's your decision making. That's your free will. That's your coping mechanism. So long as you don't rely on the coping mechanism and bypass the actual emotions down the road. We're dealing with a group of people that have learned how to bypass everything emotionally, right? They had to shut it off. They had to release it in a way that they weren't healthy about it. I don't know. Oh gosh, I mistyped. I meant to say inauguration, but I typed end times here. Anyways, shame on me. I'll change it next time. Honest mistake. Honest mistake. So this is JD Vance on election day on inauguration day at 12 noon when it began, because that's the official time. And I want to show you something that actually gives me a little bit of solace in this, right? So it was Taurus rising. Whether they like it or not, this is going to be an experiment on what will rise will be our value system. What will rise will be our standards, right? And by the way, on the descendant, he's equipped for the moment of the day because having his Saturn in Scorpio on the descendant makes him the perfect agent to sit in the shadows. He's pushing buttons behind the scenes. He's making decisions and reporting back, right? He's also a loyalist, as Pluto is sitting in his 6th house. And by the way, look at that sheer conjunct of the moon. The moon was on Libra almost to the exact degree, but certainly conjunct. So he was kind of a little bit of a love child for Donald Trump for Inauguration Day, right? And taking a look at the 10th house being void, he's a shell, man. He's a shell. In the 8th house, with with his Jupiter being in the 8th house, in Neptune, he's creating an expansive wealth for other people. He's making dreams happen for all those tech bros, man. 4 + 5 is 9. 4 + 7 is 11. He's the 9/11 president. Forget about the couch, you need knee pads. So the North Node is sitting in his 1st house, and the Chiron is conjunct here for him, landing in the 1st house. And by the way, look at this natally, where Uranus is sitting in the 1st house of Inauguration Day, along with Jupiter. So we're getting into cafeteriocracy is what we're getting into, and we're picking and choosing what we think we want to be democratic about. But the foremost thing here in Uranus, representing the internet and all things technology, we're trying to create a digital world. It is not without merit that the poorest person on the podium, on the dais of Inauguration Day, was J.D. Vance. You had Mark Zuckerberg. You had Elon, who, by the way, has now become the richest man in the world again. That is slightly concerning, everybody. That the richest man, who has nothing to lose but everything to gain through manipulation. What we are seeing is an Ocean's 11 style coup. We are watching the people that are, just need to do their job, just need to know their role and not necessarily see how it all comes together, right? With the eye on the prize of I just want to get Julia Roberts back, right? This election was stolen. And I'm just going to tell you right now, over time, we're going to learn, right? Here's the hope about them taking off all the guardrails, right? We're going to have a Snowden moment where they're going to let somebody in and they're going to be like, this shit ain't right. And they're going to say, here's all the evidence. Somebody please protect me. That's the person we need to protect, the truth seeker. J.D. Vance is he's a hump in all of this. You look at somebody like Pete Hegseth, who, by the way, is one of the abusers in all of this. He was abused. He abuses alcohol. He abuses women. He's a shitty human being. But let's just say, we won't elect him for president. Oh, wait a minute. We hired another shitty guy for that. But Pete Hegseth, on paper, is so underqualified, it's ridiculous. He has exactly one trait that is valuable to Donald Trump, and that is fealty. Loyalty. I'll do whatever you want to do. Do you want to hear or on the desk? J.D. Vance espouses that as well. And everybody's grift is what's getting paid attention to. Everybody's idealism of who they are. Why the fuck would you put Linda McMahon in charge of the education department if your goal isn't just to make a spectacle of it and body slam it? Linda, by the way, I know somebody that worked for the WWE for a significant amount of time. Linda McMahon is one of the biggest pieces of trash that human existence has ever presented. She, you know, and by the way, whatever you do in your personal life is your business. But for her to fuel that as some sort of alpha omega, like feminine divine, you know, boss lady bullshit. She's not somebody to look up to. It's not, you know, oh, we have strong women in government. We have strong whatever. You have Tulsi Gabbard, who, by the way, is on a watch list for a fucking reason, guys. You don't land on the watch list just because you're an enemy of the state, or at least you didn't once upon a time. You do now because Donnie says, I don't want you to be able to be like, nah, 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 nah. I'm sorry, come on, cut your shit. JD Vance is a puppet. JD Vance is not going to be the one that stands up. And say what you want about Mike Pence. His hair was a little too perfect. His schoolboy attitude was a little too naive. But my God, he did the right thing at the right moment and said no. JD Vance doesn't have that. JD Vance doesn't have the ability to say, I know who I am and I'm not going to be pushed around. The struggle with this Trump administration is he is filling it with broken people. And by the way, I'm not shaming that brokenness. What I'm saying is he purposely chose them because of why they were broken. He's putting Tulsi Gabbard in because she has an axe to grind with being on that list. He put Pete Hegseth in because he was offended of the wokeism of acceptance policies. Now, are those acceptance policies pushed a little too far? Probably, but whatever. The overcorrection of blowing up the anthill with an M80 is a lot, guys. Right? He's purposely putting people in and constantly testing the electric fence the way a velociraptor does to figure out where the weakness is. It's a test and an insult to our intelligence, what's going on. JD Vance is a very good pawn. But if you think he's being a bishop or a knight, he's not. He's a pawn. And the only way to beat the pawn is knight, queen, 7. You like the Jurassic Park reference there, huh? All right, guys, let's rally around this. Let's create a new vision for how we want this to go. Let's let the people speak. Let's let the people be part of what we want to have this look like. I want to thank you guys for being a part of it. Black Belt, I love that you're around here. I love that you've always been watching. And I love that my guide stepped in and said, pay attention to this one. I love that. You knew exactly, Case. Case is picking up what I'm putting down. I love it. All right, guys. I'm going to give you guys a hard tap to remind one another that we love and care for each other and to remind you guys to simply keep going. I'm going to have some more news next week. Look for my email if you haven't signed up yet, tbrandonross.com. I'm going to be talking about a message circle online. And I've also got another short class coming up about self-discovery. Untapping your intuitive creative. Talk to you guys soon. Keep going.